Christ's entry into Brussels in 1889 is the masterpiece of Belgian artist James Ensor, painted in 1888. Measuring 2.5 by 4.25 meters, this massive and colorful painting now hangs in the Getty Museum in Los Angeles as a centerpiece of their collection. The title, Christ's Entry into Brussels in 1889, is surprising for a number of reasons. This is first and foremost because it is called Christ's Entry, but it is not immediately obvious where Christ is in the painting. It feels a bit like playing Where's Waldo? We might notice the banner Long Live Jesus, King of Brussels, before we even locate the main subject. Then eventually, we spot Jesus, haloed and riding a donkey, a great distance from the painting's focal point in the interest of the Bruxellois. Who is Ensor's Christ? Is he not a king, even the eternal King of Kings? And if he is a king, why is he not out in front leading the procession? Certainly this would seem normal when Ensor's work is compared with paintings of other kings entering Belgian cities. In this historical painting, completed about 10 years before Ensor's masterwork, Charles V is shown entering Antwerp in a joyeuse entrée, a triumphal entry meant to confirm his sovereignty and his intent to rule justly. Notice how the people surround him with welcome and adoration. Should not Jesus receive the same attention? But in Ensor's painting, Jesus is practically unnoticed. Rather, the coming of Christ to Brussels seems an occasion for every segment of 19th century society to parade their prowess, to steal the attention away from Jesus in self-indulgent revelry. Perhaps Ensor reasoned that even Jesus himself would be unable to disrupt the passing parade of modern commercial and political interests. A military band performs under the banner of the Belgian Bigots Band, always successful. The mayor, with his sash, scans the crowd as though about to make a speech. And at the front, leading the crowd away from Christ, is a figure dressed in the robes of a bishop, head thrown back and mouth open. One wonders if he is bawling out slogans or trying to swallow up the people he leads. The only figures turned towards Jesus are an assortment of strangely dressed worshippers in odd masks kneeling around his donkey. There are no waving palm branches, no hosannas, no robes thrown on the ground before him. It seems that instead of the celebration of a grand entrance by the long-awaited King of Kings, Christ's entry into Brussels portrays the ill-timed arrival of a historically insignificant character who better belongs to another era, another place. And now, a second reason why this title is so surprising. Christ's entry into Brussels? When did Jesus ever come to Brussels? Why would he come? Is he planning a visit in the future? Ensor imagines Jesus entering Brussels not on Palm Sunday, but in the middle of Carnival, the pre-Lenten moment when the world is turned upside down and anything goes. As well as the bishop, the mayor, and the military, we can see all kinds of people from the city, both masked and unmasked. A judge, an échevin, 3 Jews, some church ladies, and a prostitute with a customer. Each person is individualized, interested only in themselves, paying no attention to each other, to politicians seeking the spotlight, or to Jesus himself, the rightful King of Brussels. The crowd goes on and on, back and back, down a boulevard that is believed to be the Boulevard Anspach, built over the polluted Seine River only a decade before to bury its disease and decay, and to proclaim a new and powerful Brussels, funded by immoral exploits in the Congo and its emerging industrial economy. But Ensor hints that the city's disease and decay can't be buried by a boulevard, in the masks that he paints on the faces of the people in the parade, masks that show on the outside the evil that corrupts within. Some are just strange, but others are more sinister. A witch, demons, a corpse, and death himself, only noticed by one partygoer who stares at him with an open mouth. The Brussels of Ensor's day was a place of great inequality and suffering. Just prior to this painting, the country had been shaken by worker strikes and uprisings, and King Leopold II had sent in the military to put them down. In a drawing of the same year entitled The Strike, Ensor showed the same military personnel attacking unarmed workers. In Christ's entry, they are now a band, playing a prominent role in leading the parade away from Jesus. No wonder the banner over the whole picture is Vive la sociale, long live the social state. The need for justice was acute, and the humble people, such as those near Jesus, were far from it. Instead, they were governed by a corrupt alliance where neither church nor state were attending to justice or ruling with humility. This is seen most clearly in the leader of the parade, recognizable to all at the time as the atheist socialist reformer Émile Littré, dressed up as a Catholic bishop. The church had forgotten Christ's teachings, Ensor would say, and had become complicit in the oppression of the poor, and socialism was threatening to become as doctrinaire and dictatorial as any other system. He further accentuates this failure of servanthood by the church and state by placing in the corner a prominent critic of each, the philosopher Voltaire, who, with the best view of anyone, gazes out over the crowd as an impartial observer. The third surprising element of this painting's title is the date, Christ's entry into Brussels in 1889. This does not seem particularly strange until we remember that Ensor completed his masterpiece in 1888. This is a painting set 1 year in the future. The future that Ensor saw was bleak. Jesus, Ensor implies, should he come to Brussels, would find a hopeless case, a place where people were governed unjustly, the institutional church was complicit, and it was every masked man for himself. Even the light of Christ could not penetrate such darkness. This is indeed bleak, but is it true? When we look at Brussels today, what do we see? And what would it look like for Jesus to come to Brussels next year? How would he enter? What response would he receive? We would believe the words of the prophet Isaiah are ever true, in Brussels and beyond. Of the greatness of his government and peace, there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness, from that time on and forever.